When Sarah took her furry creature to the pet groomer, she was expecting a routine trim and bath for what she thought was an ordinary cat. Little did she know that James, the groomer, would burst into tears after seeing it up close. To his surprise, this wasn't a cat at all. Confused and bewildered by the situation, he asked Sarah if he had assumed correctly about what kind of animal it really was. What could possibly have caused such an emotional reaction from James? James thought to ask her the one question that could give him an answer. Where did you find this creature, to his surprise? Sarah's response was even more shocking than the pet itself. What was this mysterious creature, and where did Sarah find it? Sarah was always up for an adventure, and her favorite place to explore was the forest that hugged her village. She knew the land like the back of her hand, and oftentimes she would spend an entire day trekking through the dense woodland. But one day, feeling particularly brazen, Sarah decided to take a new route. The route was uncharted. She felt like a true explorer. After walking for some time, Sarah stumbled across an unexpected surprise. Astonished by the sight before her, Sarah couldn't believe her eyes. Nestled in a secluded area of the forest was a hidden cave, shrouded by thick foliage and towering trees. She quickly realized that she had never seen it before, and the sense of mystery and anticipation was overwhelming. She was incredibly excited to explore the unfamiliar terrain, and so Sarah slowly made her way toward the entrance of the cave. She had no idea what lay beyond those walls. Sarah slowly stepped forward, her eyes searching for the source of the danger she sensed, drawing Sarah more closer. Sarah couldn't take her eyes off the creature. Its unique eyes seemed to pierce into her soul. Despite the initial fear Sarah had felt upon seeing this mysterious creature, she found herself drawn to it in a way she could not explain. She wanted to help and protect it, and though unsure if it posed any danger, she knew that she wanted to be its friend. Also, despite its slightly menacing appearance, Sarah couldn't help but feel a connection between them. Gently and cautiously, she smiled at the creature and said, "It's okay. I'm here to help you." Sarah tenderly lifted the animal, cradling it in her arms like an infant. A sense of trust radiated from the creature. With a newfound sense of courage, Sarah began to make her way out of the cave. Sarah finally returned home with the animal, carrying it in her arms with utmost care. She fiercely protected it against any potential threats, not wanting to put it in any more danger than necessary. Once at home, Sarah settled the animal into its new home, a cozy corner in her house where she had carefully prepared a bed of warm blankets and pillows. She spent hours grooming and washing away the dirt and mud that still clung to its fur. The animal's fur was now soft and shiny. After days of scouring the internet, Sarah had still not been able to identify the animal she had found in the cave. No matter how many websites she visited or articles she read, Sarah decided that the best course of action would be to take the animal to a cat groomer. When Sarah and the animal arrived at the groomer's shop, the groomers were anxious to learn more about this mysterious creature, and Sarah couldn't contain her enthusiasm. After the groomer made his pronouncement, Sarah was stunned. She had expected to get some insights on the animal, but this answer was far from what she had imagined. The groomer seemed to be just as shocked, and he quickly grabbed the phone to call the police. The police officers arrived at the groomer's shop with a sense of urgency. Sarah heard a crash sound, and suddenly it all made sense. She instantly realized that the creature had escaped through an open window, and her heart sank. Knowing it could be in danger, Sarah quickly jumped into action and decided to rescue it. She ran outside to the street and desperately tried to spot the creature, scanning every corner for any sign of it. With a heavy heart, Sarah continued her search. She knocked on doors and asked shop owners and locals if they had seen anything unusual, but it seemed like no one knew what she was looking for. She was prepared to search the entire forest for hours, if needed. Taking a deep breath, she plunged into the dense foliage and set off on her mission. Time was running out. The thought that it could be injured or even dead somewhere filled her with an overwhelming sense of dread and desperation. However, she became alarmed when she heard something moving in the distance. And could this be her chance? Sarah cautiously made her way to the bush and stopped, her heart skipping a beat when she saw it. There was the creature, standing in the bush, its eyes wide with fear. She couldn't believe her luck the creature had survived. Sarah slowly approached closely, examining the creature and its surroundings. She was shocked to see the newborn babies by its side. Somehow, they had survived in this cold and dangerous environment. Wasting no time, Sarah hurriedly made her way back, the little creature safe in her arms. Now the police were standing right outside it, seemingly waiting for something. She knew that if they found out about what she had just done, all of them would be taken away from her. Sarah thought about what to do, her mind spinning with ideas. She knew that if she was careful enough, she could still make it. Sarah steeled herself and silently made her way to the back of her house. She hesitated for a moment, looking around to make sure that no one was watching before she slowly opened the door. Luck was on her side. There were still no police officers at the back of her house. Taking a deep breath, Sarah carefully stepped inside, quickly closing the door behind her. She could feel the little creatures trembling in her arms as she hurriedly made her way to her bedroom. Once inside her bedroom, Sarah carefully placed the creature and its babies on her bed. The police officers heard some noises and quickly arrived at the doorstep. Sarah rushed to the door quickly, feeling the fear and worry set in her veins. She opened the door and found a few police officers on her doorstep. The police officers were polite but firm, explaining that they had received a noise complaint and needed to investigate. Sarah was afraid of being forced to leave her home because many people in her neighborhood had already complained about the noise. Not knowing what to do, she tried to distract them with small talk. Although Sarah was afraid and worried, she told them that the noise had originated from other neighbors in the area and that she was not responsible for it. The police officers seemed unconvinced and entered her home, looking around. So they found the creatures in Sarah's bedroom. Much to her shock and horror, Sarah pleaded with the officers, begging them not to take away the living creatures that she had been taking care of. Despite her pleas, the police officers remained resolute and proceeded to take Sarah into custody. She was terrified about what would happen next, feeling alone in this moment of despair. The police car was waiting outside, ready to take her away. As they drove away, Sarah looked back one last time at her house, the tears nearly escaping her eyes. She was being taken to a nearby police station for processing, where she would be questioned about the creatures. As she was guided to a small interrogation room, she felt her stomach twist in knots. The room was barren except for a few chairs and a table, the only sound coming from the ticking of an old clock on the wall. Sarah nervously took a seat as she wondered what was going to happen next. Even though she was not responding, the atmosphere of the room seemed to press down on her like a weight. Everything from the barren walls to the hard chairs seemed designed to intimidate and unnerve. Sarah's lawyer had arrived at the police station, bringing a sense of relief to the room. She recounted the whole situation to the officers in her lawyer's presence. The lawyer started to explain the situation to Sarah, reassuring her that although the police detectives had an intimidating presence, there was no need to be scared. The lawyer proceeded to take control of the conversation, firmly and politely providing the officers with the facts that would help prove Sarah's innocence. After listening to what the lawyer had to say, along with further questioning of Sarah, the police officers eventually agreed and released her from custody. Sarah felt relieved at being exonerated of any wrongdoing while also being curious about the mysterious creature and its fate. They had seen enough evidence to prove that she was genuinely concerned for the creature's safety and wanted only to ensure its well-being. In light of that, they agreed to provide her more information regarding the fate of the mysterious creature. So the agents granted Sarah full access to the details surrounding the situation and invited her to join them in an adjacent room to discuss further. The agent began to explain the details of the creature as they walked, speaking of an ancient breed of cats that had been sought after for decades. It was one of the rarest species in existence and few people had ever seen it before. Sarah was captivated by the story. Upon entering the room, Sarah gave the officer a pleading look, her eyes filled with hope. She had fallen in love with the little creatures when she had first seen them, and the thought of taking them home made her heart swell with joy. She stood there in silence for a few moments, quietly begging the officer to let her take them home. She glanced down at the creatures, their eyes twinkling with curiosity, and was sure the answer would be yes. After a long moment of contemplating, the officer finally gave Sarah his answer. With a smile, he kindly nodded and told her she could take them home. Immediately, Sarah felt a wave of relief rushes through her body. She scooped up the little creatures into her arms and hugged them tightly, feeling an immense happiness that she could keep them as her own.